Shoes with maximum cushioning have lost some significance in my rotation in recent months, since I'm not currently preparing for a marathon. Most of my easy runs were simply done in my daily trainers, but now they are back. The monsters from Hoka, shoes whose previous edition saw the light of day 2 years ago and at that time looked massive. Back then, exceeding 40mm of foam under the heel was a big deal in the running shoe world. Today, it's pretty much the norm, and now we are getting another edition of the Hoka Bondi. Has it adapted to today's standards? Let's find out. Here is the Hoka Bondi 9. Hi, I'm Michał, an amateur runner deeply into running shoes. On this channel I review gear, shoes and cover various running related topics, so if that's something that interests you, feel free to subscribe and comment. It really helps me reach new people. Thanks! Before I get into my running impressions of the Hoka Bondi 9, I need to mention that I received these shoes from Hoka for review, but no one had any influence on my opinions presented here, nor did anyone see this material before you. I'm also not affiliated with any store or brand that manufactures running shoes. First up, as always, the technical details. The upper is made of a fairly thick material but still feels quite breathable, mostly soft except for sections with embedded harder elements such as the Hoka logo or a small reflective element at the front of the shoe. The heel counter is firm and holds the heel in place well, additionally lined inside with a soft material. There's not a ton of this padding, but it's enough to keep the foot comfortable. In the upper part of the heel counter, there's a 3D molded element designed to further aid foot lockdown and protect the Achilles tendons. That's the black element here. We have standard lacing, a medium thickness tongue, soft, covered with mesh on the outside. It's not gasketed, but I had no issues with it shifting during runs. There's a relatively large amount of space in the shoe, though not as much as it might seem from the outside. Still, even runners with wide feet shouldn't have any complaints about space. A big plus is the number of reflective elements, which significantly enhance visibility, especially in autumn and winter when it's darker more often than not. The midsole consists of a very thick layer of supercritical EVA foam. This is a change from version 8, which used regular EVA. What does that mean? It means that the 9s are softer. There's also 2mm more foam compared to the previous edition, adding even more softness. Under the heel, the foam measures 43mm. Under the toes, it's 38mm, giving us a 5mm drop, making these shoes illegal for official races. They are too tall. But don't worry, no one cares about that except for your annoying friend who has a stick up his you-know-where. Run in them at races if you want. The outsole is made of durabrasion rubber, a high durability compound mainly placed along the sides of the shoe in the form of pillows. The tread pattern is fairly standard for road shoes, and traction is solid on both dry and wet asphalt. Even when heading into a forest or park, the Bondi 9s hold up reasonably well. And now the weight. In the reference size 42 EU, they weigh 297 grams, while in my size 11 US or 45 1/3 EU, they come in at 350 grams. This makes them probably the heaviest shoes I've ever tested, but I have to say that in the category of max cushioning easy day trainers, this weight isn't really extraordinary. Still, I wouldn't mind if they were 20 to 30 grams lighter. And how do the Hoka Bondi 9 feel to run in? Comfortable. Given how much foam there is, how soft it is, how much room there is in the shoe and how stable it feels, I have no complaints. Of course, I'm talking about easy runs since that's the primary purpose. The longer the run, the more you appreciate how well your feet are taken care of in this shoe. Naturally, they also work well for short recovery runs. You can definitely relax in these. A big part of this is thanks to the new foam. The supercritical EVA used in Bondi 9 is a bit softer than the standard EVA in the previous version. I also feel like it's a bit firmer on the sides, which helps keep the foot in check. This contributes to the shoe's stability, which is at a really solid level. A wide sole and slight reinforcements keep the foot from collapsing inward too much. As someone with overpronation that goes a bit beyond the norm, I felt very secure in this shoe and didn't experience any discomfort related to my ankle rolling in. And one more plus, the Hoka Bondi 9 are really comfortable for walking. I know there's this meme about Hokas being nurse shoes because they protect from standing all day, but there's some truth to it. I can totally imagine them excelling in that setting. I walked around in them a bit and they were fantastic. And the downsides? Well, they are heavy shoes. In my size, 45 and 1/3 EU or 11 US, they weigh 350 grams. And unfortunately, you do feel that while running, though you can get used to it quickly. On longer runs, I didn't feel the extra weight accumulated and tired my legs more. It was fine. Another downside is the look. Bondi 9s are ridiculously wide, even though there isn't as much space inside as the outer design suggests. The foam simply spills out on the sides, providing some stability, but making this shoe look really massive. And the last issue, the foam break-in period. The first run in the Bondi 9 felt rough, the weight was immediately noticeable and the foam felt dead. Fortunately, after 2 runs, the foam came to life and running in them became much more enjoyable. Of course, I'm not talking about responsiveness, that's not what this shoe is about, but the comfort significantly improves after those first 2 runs. And now for a 4-shoe rotation using only Hoka models, which will later trim down. The Bondi 9 takes the spot for long runs, so we still need a daily trainer, tempo shoe and racing shoe. For daily trainers, 2 options. For heavier runners, I'd recommend Hoka's flagship model, so the Clifton 9. They are essentially a slightly lighter Bondi, making them more versatile. The second option is the Hoka Mach 6. Fantastic daily trainers, but more dynamic, better suited for lighter runners or those with narrow feet. For faster sessions, for tempo sessions, I'd suggest the Hoka Mach X2, a shoe with a plate, essentially a Mach 6 on steroids, a great option even for racing. And for racing, my favorite right now is the Hoka Rocket X2. I've done a few races in them and feel like they are one of the most beginner-friendly shoes of this type. Now for trimming down the lineup. First, I'd cut the Mach X2. Regular Machs can handle the fast training runs, or you can even use the Rockets for that. Next, I'd remove the Bondi 9, especially if you picked the Cliftons as your daily trainers. And the final cut, ditch the racing shoes and stick with either the Mach 6 or the Cliftons. Before we wrap up this incredible review, let's look at some alternatives. Hoka Bondi 9 costs 180 euros. Not cheap, but as you'll see, it's a fairly standard price in this category. First, the obvious competitor ASICS Gel Nimbus 27, also recently released. Lots of foam, even softer than the Bondi, but they are pricier at 200 euros. Second option, New Balance More V5, even softer foam but more traditional running feel, a typical easy day and recovery shoe similar to the Hokas, but here you save some cash. More V5 costs 170 euros. And the last option, Puma Magmax Nitro, max cushioning but with a more responsive foam, giving them broader usability than the Bondi. These cost 190 euros. Hoka Bondi 9 are solid, classic max cushioning shoes. Why classic? Because they don't mess around with any gimmicks. Their main goal is comfortable mileage and they fulfill that purpose 100%. You won't find responsiveness here, it's all about comfort. Despite my initial concerns about the weight and the dead feel of the foam, with each easy run I appreciated the strength of the Bondi 9 more and more and gladly put them on for recovery sessions. This model will mainly be appreciated by heavier runners because there is an abundance of cushioning here, but also by those training for a marathon who are looking for something that will let their feet rest even on very long, easy runs. If you've made it this far, thank you for watching. I encourage you to subscribe, like and comment on this video. I'd love to hear your thoughts on these shoes. Also check out my Instagram and TikTok. All links you will find in the description and I will see you in the next video.